I think it's what we would call a majoritarian state, in which the majority imposes its will regardless of the feelings of the minority. Now, people say this doesn't affect Muslims who are already in India and are Indian citizens, but that's not the point. The point is it makes those 200 million people feel as if somehow their religion is not as valid or as Indian as the others. And that's not a good recipe for harmony. Its competitor should not be Pakistan or Afghanistan.
क्या आप कहना चाहते हैं पाकिस्तान में मुसलमान पर अत्याचार होगा? बांग्लादेश में मुसलमान पर अत्याचार होगा? कभी नहीं हो सकता.
That's complete nonsense, okay? I mean, I will tell you, I give you a scientific example. Abdul Salam was a great theoretical physicist, and he, won the Nobel Prize for his work. And, people desecrated his grave in Pakistan because he was an Ahmadiyya. He was considered not to be a proper Muslim. There are all sorts of people being persecuted. And I think instead of making a blanket exclusion, people can decide these things on a case-by-case basis. One of the things that India ought to be proudest of is that it has an extremely enlightened constitution. Considering it was, written in around 1950, it's an amazingly progressive document. And in that sense, it differs from many of the neighbors that India has. It's really like an enlightened liberal democracy that is tolerant to everybody in the country. Now, what this bill does is it does something that strikes me as against the spirit and possibly the law of the Constitution, which is that it specifies requirements for citizenship by religion and very deliberately excludes one religion while allowing others. If it's going to get bogged down in these religious squabbles or community squabbles, that's going to distract from the very hard task of making progress, with education, technology, advancement, general economic advancement, and so on. And it just sends a bad signal, and I think it's bad for the country. I think it's what we would call a majoritarian state, in which the majority imposes its will regardless of the feelings of the minority. And I think, you could say that's a kind of democracy, but it's not the ideal democracy. An ideal democracy has a tolerance for minority, for opposing views, etc. And that was the beauty of India, that even though it was a very poor country, it was a very tolerant country. It didn't care, it didn't want to ride roughshod over minorities. And it was a country where everybody, could feel that they had some stake in it. Now, if you alienate 1/6 or 1/5 of the population, those people are not going to feel that they have a stake in India. And that is actually quite a dangerous situation for a country to be in. Normally, I don't interfere, I don't even express an opinion about Indian political matters. But I was told that a large group of Indian scientists and other academics had, filed a petition against this bill. And I did not want to sign that petition because I'm not an Indian citizen. But what I am is a person who was born and grew up in India. I was completely educated until the age of 19 in India, in fact, all the way through my undergraduate degree at the MS University of Baroda. I was a recipient of a National Science Talent Scholarship by the government of India, so I'm very grateful. It is true that as someone who left India a long time ago and has not been an Indian citizen for a very long time, I don't have a local standing. However, it is the country I'm from, and so I have a deep affection for India, and I want India to do well. And I believe that, India has so many problems of poverty, water, energy, the economy, that it is best if Indians all come together and work together. And if large sections of the country feel alienated and don't feel invested in the country, that is not as good for India to make progress. And so I think the ideals of the Constitution really were good ideals for the country to have.